All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We are talking about the New York Giants in today's video. Now, less than 2 weeks away, you guys will be selecting with a third overall pick, most likely, unless there's a trade involved. And it kind of feels like it's either going to be a Travis Hunter, it's going to be a Abdul Carter, possibly. But I want to ask Giants fans specifically this question before we even get into this video. Let's just say the Browns take Travis Hunter at pick number 2. Who are you taking at 3? Does that affect your decision in any way, shape, or form? Because when you look at the Giants offseason thus far, Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston, but then there's been a lot of nice moves like Paulson Adebo at the defensive back room, Javon Holland at safety, re-signing Darius Slayton. You bring in Chauncey Golston at edge, re-sign Greg Van Roten. And then also the Giants had a really good draft last year, and it was just kind of under the radar because they didn't take a quarterback. They took Malik Neighbors and then won 3 games in the next season. So Russ's contract is a big reason why I'm making this video. Russ's contract's interesting. All right. So the Giants signed him to a 1-year, $10.5 million guaranteed contract a couple of weeks ago, but his base salary is only $2 million. So his signing bonus was $8 million. And then there's technically a 500G workout bonus. If he participates in like 85% of the offseason, he'll earn that bonus. But $2 million base, $8 million signing bonus. So the way you can kind of look at this is, if things don't go well, let's say the Giants are like 0-6, no matter with the quarterback, no matter what the draft happens, right? Let's say the Giants start the season like 0-6. We can trade Russell Wilson right away, and it'd be pretty easy because of that contract. But you could also use, on the flip side, you could use a similar argument saying like, all right, well, if you gave him like $5 million up front and $5 million signing bonus, you should still be able to eat a little bit of his salary if you wanted to trade him. But my point just kind of revolves around this. Every mock draft I read for the Giants specifically, whoever wrote it has them taking like Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter at pick number 3. And then in the second round, because we'll talk about the draft in just 1 second, the Giants have 5 picks in the top 105, but they've got a very early second round pick that's kind of like a late first. And unanimously, almost everyone has the Giants taking Jackson Dart. I don't think Jackson Dart's going to be available in the second round. Now, that's not the end of the world. You could go for a Will Howard. You could even go for a Quinn Ewers. You could go for a Riley Leonard, the guy McCord out of Syracuse. There's a lot of really good quarterbacks out there that aren't, just Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, that have some intrigue. But that's kind of why I asked that hypothetical question where it's like, what if Jackson Dart's not available at your second round pick and you already didn't take a QB at 3? Are you fine with this quarterback room heading into next season? Because honestly, the Giants are not that bad. They really are not that bad. And a lot of their holes they fixed. But I do just want to sprinkle this in here, whether or not, the true meaning behind giving Russell Wilson a 2-year contract with $8 million signing bonus. One thing I really wanted them to do with Danny Dimes was you have to cut deadweight loose as soon as possible. And a really good example is what San Francisco does. Like, a couple of years ago, Jimmy Garoppolo was a really talented quarterback. They kept making Super Bowls. They were making conference championships. But, Shanahan and their management group decided, hey, this isn't the quarterback for the foreseeable future. This is, our ceiling is only so high with this QB. And so they move off him. And then, they lucked out kind of with Brock Purdy as the last pick in the NFL draft. So luck has a, big part of it. But my point just is, the Giants really have a bunch of options they can do. And I still prefer Shedeur Sanders being the selection at pick number 3. That's just me. But even Travis Hunter would be amazing. And then real quick on Jameis, 2-year, $8 million contract, 5.5 of it is guaranteed. And then about $2 million of that is a signing bonus. Since Wilson's on a 1-year contract and Winston's on a 2-year contract, he's pretty well positioned to be a bridge QB if/when you guys do draft a quarterback in a couple of weeks here. So it's similar to Tyrod Taylor coming over, that 2022 contract for the Giants where you gave him a 2-year, $11 million contract. Kind of similar, or at least that's the way I see it. But once again, there's still a lot of hope for this offense, no matter if it's Russ, Jameis, Dart, Shedeur, even Cam Ward, no matter who's slinging the rock next season, it's not the end of the world. Malik Neighbors is a phenomenal rookie. didn't even play the whole season, had 170 freaking targets, 109 of those he caught for 1,200 yards. I mean, Malik Neighbors is a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL, and that'll be, clear-cut fact this time next season. And then, fourth-round pick last year, tight end Theo Johnson, fifth-round pick Tyrone Tracy. Your GM's done a really good job at finding some of this draft picks, and, I guess you could use examples like Jalen Hyatt, but the wide receiver room is interesting because you could hit two birds with one stone with Travis Hunter. You could get a wide receiver and a defensive back. And then, like Jalen Hyatt, Winston just said he's an emerging superstar. Russell Wilson just called him untapped. There's a lot of buzz in the building around Jalen Hyatt. Now, based on my Giants comments on these videos, you guys aren't as bullish as those two quarterbacks are. I feel the same way. I'll believe it when I see it, but he actually did have a pretty nice rookie season when he was throwing the ball. He was averaged over 15 yards per catch and had almost 400 receiving yards. But real quick on the draft, third pick, right? The Giants in all have 8 total draft picks in the 7th-round draft. Like I said, 5 of those are in the top 105. Quarterback, not a huge pressing need, but whether it's first round, second round, third round, one of those third round picks, that quarterback, the Giants should be taking a QB at some point in this draft. And so I was reading a mock draft, and this is kind of how we started the video. And I think this was on The Athletic. And what they had is they had the Browns going with Travis Hunter, pick number 2. I want you to take a guess who the Giants take at 3. All right, just take a guess. Cam Ward 1, Travis Hunter 2. Mason Graham was this guy's pick. And, Mason Graham is an absolute superstar. Mason Graham will be a superstar in the run defense. I'm not so sure he's got the best technique for getting to the passer, but once again, he's going to be a phenomenal run stuffer. And then at pick number 34, right when that second round starts, they had you guys taking Jackson Dart. But then a lot of other mocks have you taking Travis Hunter. And then there's even been some speculation in the last couple of weeks that the Giants could trade down and, just get a bunch of draft picks and, go from there. So the way I see the Giants is this. I really like this quarterback situation, the future to be figured out in this draft. But at the end of the day, man, the Giants' floor is raised a lot. I'm not saying this team is, going to be competing for the NFC East title this upcoming season. But I will say, especially in these divisional games, man, I don't think it's going to be that bad of a year for the Giants. And I love talking about this team in the summer because Danny Dimes really brought that team down. I mean, he really did. And now we can all admit it. We can all accept it and say, yeah, we were just hoping. We were hoping and praying. I'm really intrigued by this Giants team, and I hope that it goes well this season because I love talking about them. But when they start like 2-8 or 3-7, people aren't really clicking on these Giants videos. So I'm enjoying talking about it in April. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. Let me know who you're taking at pick number 3, and we'll see you in a couple of days. Peace.